So we discussed, we tried out the criteria based upon the problems around nuclear energy. And first we try to focus on the problem orientation, where it's a very complex issue, so it helped us a lot to have these criteria. And the first thing was to see what's really the core problem. And just to introduce how we went further, maybe I can go a bit on the topic itself. So it's the safety of nuclear plants, but it's also the necessity to have electricity provision. So there are two items which have to be dealt with, and safety of nuclear plants also includes, for instance, safety of the waste management, which concerns policymakers but also citizens. Some countries don't have nuclear energy, so there have been a clear choice, for instance, in Denmark, not to have nuclear energy. Some countries like Belgium have an enormous amount of nuclear energy, more than 60%, so there is a big difference between the European countries. So, to come to the criteria, so in the problem orientation, whom is the problem for? So it's for everybody. There are the four questions. Where is the problem, the geographical dimension, and the urgency were very good questions. Due to the current situation with problems with nuclear vessels seen in Belgium, it becomes an international problem because the company who made the vessels, the company of Rotterdam who made the vessels, also made vessels for other countries, so it can be a worldwide problem in the end. And then the knowledge demands, so the first problem orientation, the four questions are okay. The knowledge demands, there we have also to see how the needs of the different audiences differ. So there it was mentioned what knowledge is needed and by whom. But of course, you first have to look into the target audience before you know which knowledge you need. The technology aspect, we think there were a bit too many details in the list. So is it technology based? And then what's the relation to technology was a bit a strange question. So if it's not technology based, you can go to other questions. And of course, the state of development of technology, there you have a close link to the inputs. So I come back to this later. And the problem-oriented impact, we wanted to move to the top under the problem orientation. So we had problem orientation with four questions. We want directly under it to put problem-oriented impact, who is affected, because we said first who is a problem for, so that we have problem orientation, problem-oriented impact in one group or next to each other, where we also include potential impact on society, societal impact, and there also the ethical issues which are further on because it's more in the same line. So is there an ethical dimension should be part of problem-oriented impact. And also the urgency and the timing are related to the societal impact, the potential impact. So we put this all under problem-oriented impact, under problem orientation. Then the irrelevance, there are relevant questions, but we also want to add there the question on national or international relevance. We want to put under the relevance, because especially in the case of nuclear energy, because we got rid of the problem in Catalonia and we made it a European problem. There, of course, we wondered if it's not possible to have, for instance, the possibility of having technology assessments in different countries and a pan-European one, and then make a kind of synthesis TA for the European problem, because the core problem we defined was how can Europe become energy independent as a whole, with all the resources, all the energy sources in the different countries. So this means that national and international relevance moved up to under TA relevance. Then input, it was a bit strange to see is reliable knowledge available, is reliable information available as separate points. Knowledge is a very special form of information, so we will more speak about the state of the art of the available knowledge and information. And who is providing knowledge is different from is interdisciplinary required. So the interdisciplinarity comes in a later stage with other questions. Then for the output, there is a key question to be asked, and that's first of all we have a customer who asks us to make the TA, but there are maybe a lot of target audiences which we want to reach with the TA product. So it's important to define the target audiences when we think about the output. And there we want to remove the question, can we produce useful and understandable outputs? It's related to the target audiences. The impacts is related to the output. So we have on the one hand the output and on the other hand the impact. But the impact we want to reach with, we want to aim with the TA can be different per target audience. So we can try to reach politicians, but we also can try to reach citizens, while they were not the clients who asked us to make the TA. So the impact we want to achieve depends on the target audience, and we should use the same list as in the previous point, which is the output. And then to measure the impact, this is something we have to see case by case. National or international relevance already was moved up before, and then we have to see maybe add another question, which is what is the geographical coverage? Is it regional, national, global coverage? Does it cover several countries? Does it cover all? Is it pan-European or is it a global problem? For the policy relevance, we changed. We had other points. I'll go back to my other notes. So who is in charge of the policy and so on is maybe not so relevant here. So the most important thing is it or should it be on the political agenda? So this was the key question. The state of legislation has nothing to do with the policy relevance, but is more the state of the art, so it should be to the inputs. Ethics we moved up, and then we ended with the complexity, where we think that the list of questions can be kept like it is, but then we ran out of time because other groups came in. So, but we had seen that the other questions on the last page, some of them are very generic for all the projects. So I think until the complexity we managed well to discuss, although of course the time is quite short, and it's more a reshuffling for having a very logical checklist that we did and remove some questions which yesterday, which are here behind me on the board, but which maybe are not so relevant to this input questions of the study. So if I forgot anything, the members of my group and colleagues.
Very good presentation. I was even taking additional notes.
Okay, great.